Hey guys, I'm Odyssey, and I got something pretty awesome to show you here today. It's something I call the Naked Lamp Selector. I'll just go ahead and do a fly around to show you what it looks like. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, what the heck, Odyssey? This is just some redstone lamps on top of some buttons, nothing special. Well, I'll go ahead and demonstrate it. So this is actually a last selector with functioning indicator lamps. It's um, it's pretty awesome. I love it. I don't think I've seen anything like it. I think it's actually a first. The reason I call it a naked lamp selector is because normally when you see a last selector, the redstone lamps are all covered up, hiding the redstone behind them that powers them, and so you only ever really look at them from the front. But in the case of this design, I've managed to put all the redstone underground, and so the redstone lamps are completely exposed, and it just gives for a very I don't know, neat look to it. Like, it doesn't even look like it should work. Like, how is the redstone lamp receiving power? But lots of fun. Not as much fun getting it to work. There were quite a few headaches involved, but I managed to work around them. Now this does have a reset, so like you normally want for a last selector. But there's actually two resets, and the reason there's two resets is because in the way this is wired, that if someone decided to come by and just like spam the buttons, the outputs can get stuck on, and when that happens, power is being sent to the shared reset. So when you send more power to the shared reset with the reset button, nothing happens. So I put in a second button to fix it in a situation where that occurs. Yeah, it's just sort of a noob proofing. If you don't have people who just kind of come up to your selector panel spamming buttons, you'll probably never even have to use it. But I just put it there for convenience in case it does happen. So that way you can just fix it with the push of a button instead of having to go underneath and figure out what's wrong. Now let's go over here and take a look at what it actually looks like underground. It's a bit of a behemoth. It's not quite as compact as I would have liked it to be. But when something looks cool because it looks like it shouldn't even work, inherently it's going to be difficult to make it work. And like I mentioned earlier, there were a couple headaches with this one. I'm not going to go into great detail on how this works because I don't want to spend 10 minutes talking about it. I will cover a few things though. It functions like a normal last selector, so it's a RS NOR latch array with a shared reset. There are a couple things that are pretty different though. So in order to hide all the redstone underground, I had to build it in a way that there was a one block space between the droppers and the buttons. And you have to have, in order for a dropper to recognize that it's being powered by a button that's a block above it with a block space, it has to be updated. So the way I've done that is I've put this little activator rail line here. I've hooked it up to a hopper clock. So these activator rails continually turning on and off keeps these droppers all updated so that when they get powered by the button, they know it and everything works like it's supposed to. This is probably the biggest reason that the design ended up as big as it was, because you can't have any power getting to these powered rails, because if they get powered, they stop turning off and on, which means they stop updating the droppers and your buttons no longer work. So I mean, this was a real critical area. If you could put some redstone here, you could really compact down the design, but you just can't. So probably the biggest reason it's as big as it is. The other thing I'll talk about is probably the biggest problem I had, and that is actually powering the redstone, the indicator lamps. Because in order to power those indicator lamps, you have to send power up to this block with a torch, and that torch will pretty much power anything that button will. And the problem I was running into was that when I'd hit the button, it would do its whole thing, and then when it came around to power the lamp, it would be as if I hit the button a second time, and it would do everything again, and so it would just cause a loop, an infinite loop, and it was a huge problem. And the way I worked around it was by using these double droppers here. So by default, the items are all in the front droppers. When you hit the button, the item is moved to the back dropper, and then when the power comes back around to power the indicator lamp, the item is moved back to the front dropper, and that breaks the loop. That keeps it from creating like an infinite loop, and it makes it all one cycle. And yeah, so that's the way it works. Now I think that's pretty much all I'm going to get into. Don't want to spend forever talking about it, so let's just go ahead and get to the building. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get to building. Now the first thing you need to do is determine how many buttons you actually want. It's expandable up to 14 buttons, and that's not counting the reset buttons. That's 14 individual selections. And the reason you need to determine that up front is because while you could build it cross section by cross section, it's just a lot easier and a lot faster to build them all at once from the ground up, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be building a 4-button selector, and if you want more than that, just simply expand it because it's the same for every button, so it should be very easy to expand. And with that, let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to put a 1-block space underneath the buttons and put a row of outward facing droppers. Put a space and another row of blocks and droppers on those. Having trouble with my mouse roller. Now we're going to come underneath the front droppers and put another space and another row of outward facing droppers. Now we're going to put a hopper into each one of those. And now at this point you can grab a stackable item of your choice and put one in each of the front droppers and one in each of the bottom droppers. And now we're going to come underneath the droppers and put a row of blocks and another row right here. Going to put repeaters on the top of those. Then a row of blocks right here. And repeaters on top of those. And this time we're going to fully delay all the repeaters. And then 2 more rows of blocks right here. And repeaters going into these blocks. And a line of redstone behind them. So all these repeaters should be on no delay, and all these repeaters should be on no delay, but these ones on top should be on full delay. Alright, now we're going to grab some activator rails, put them on top of all the droppers, right here, and then we're going to extend this out by 2 blocks, and put 2 more, and then we're going to connect a hopper clock up to this. And put 1 item in here. Now, what you need to note right here is that power will only travel along activator rails or powered rails for 9 blocks. And so if you have a selector panel that's over 7 blocks, or excuse me, 7 buttons or higher, I believe, you're going to need a dropper on both ends. So for example right here, you can see that this doesn't reach all the way across. But if you just put a hopper clock on the other side, then you'll cover all the activator rails. So that's what you'll have to do if I believe it's a 7-button panel or higher. But you should be able to figure it out. Alright, next thing we're going to do is put a row of blocks right here. And then put torches on all those. And a line of redstone on top. And then blocks on top of those. Now we're going to grab some half slabs. Now the half slabs aren't actually necessary. I just like to use them right here because if you accidentally drop something in the hoppers or something, it's easy to grab it out. And it just looks a little bit less cluttered. Now we're going to put comparators on top of the half slabs. And now we need to do the indicator lamps. So we're going to take power out of these droppers. These are the memory cells, by the way, right here. Through a block with a comparator. Put that into a series of torches and blocks to take the power up to the lamps. And 1 more row. Alright, so I'm going to reset these memory cells. At this point, I believe we should have a functioning last selector. And let me reset this. By the way, this is the shared reset right here. And let's see if it works. Awesome. And Awesome. By the way, the output comes out right here with repeaters. So let's make sure that lines up correctly. Yeah, and by the way, notice that while the lamps do flicker on and off, the output does not flicker on and off. So that's not something you're going to have to worry about. Alright, so now the last thing we need to do is put in the reset buttons, both the normal reset and the hard reset. We'll put in the normal reset first. And the way we're going to do that is put a dropper right here with a hopper facing into it and one stackable item. Then we'll go block, block, half slab, and comparator. Then extend out this torch line and put some block and redstone right here. So now what happens is whenever we hit this button, power will be sent into the shared reset, resetting all the memory cells. So let's make sure that works. And it does. And the last thing we need to do is do the hard reset. First, let's go ahead and extend this out one block with the activator rail. And then again, we're going to put a dropper facing that direction and a hopper facing into it. One stackable item. And then we're going to go half slab right here. And then a full block, torch, and then extend out this line of redstone right here. And put a comparator. Do I have one item in there? Yeah. So what happens when someone spams the buttons and the memory cells get stuck? Let me put this here. I think I want to grab some redstone lamps and throw those on top of the buttons as well. Anyways, like I was saying, when the memory cells get stuck, what happens is that the shared reset gets stuck powered on. So when you send power into it with the normal reset, nothing happens. So what this one does is simply send power to the torches, or to the line of redstone above the torches, and it turns them off temporarily and then back on, which resets the memory cells. Normally you only have to hit it one time. Every once in a while you have to hit it twice. Like right now we had to hit it twice. But now you can see all the items are back in the front droppers, and you can either choose a new selection or reset it. And like I said, you probably won't have to use it very often, only if someone like spams the buttons. And I think we've got everything done. We got the normal reset, the hard reset, and the last selector is complete. I told you about the activator rails. Yeah, I think we're done. Well, hopefully you guys are able to follow along. It's not the fastest build, but I think it's doable. And hope you guys liked it. Now, I've only started recently uploading videos, but I got lots of redstone stuff that I've built that I plan on uploading, and some of it might interest you. So keep an eye out. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.